Hi my friends, welcome. I know I'm very early. We had a class scheduled at 7 or 7:30, but I'm going to get it in today or right now, and of course you can rewatch, and what's great about that is you can pause along the way if you need a little bit more time for each step. So I'm going to get started in just a moment, but today's painting is this one here, a beautiful crescent moon. And the reflection of water. It is a beautiful painting. We're really going to focus on our line and of course on blending. So again, I know I'm early, but that's okay. So here we go. So our materials that I'm using today, I'm using acrylic paint, I'm using a canvas. My canvas is vertical. And if you're joining, I'm just going to be recording early today, so of course you can rewatch this at a later time, so don't feel like you need to go grab your supplies, enjoy the beautiful day, but just wanted to get this in early. The colors I'm using today, and I'm using acrylic paint. I'm using white, black, bright blue, purple, ocean breeze, orange, and yellow. Of course you can use any colors that make you happy. Also I have an assortment of brushes. If you've painted with me before, it's the same brushes we usually use. This is our big flat brush, just a nice chip brush. I also have a white grip and my detail, round detail, and another flat, smaller flat brush. And I don't know if I said this one, but I'll say it again. our white grip. I also have a paper towel. I've been using my rag lately. Really helps with saving on paper towels, and also I get a lot more use of my rag, and of course my water. So if you're joining, I'm just a little early today. I'm going to record, and of course you can watch at a later time. I'm going to be using my canvas vertical. Of course you can turn it on its side if you like. Make it your own. Have fun with this painting, and I'm just really excited to be painting with you. I will be reposting this so you can watch it at a later time, and always pause when you need to. So let's get started. I'm going to start with yellow, and I'm also going to be starting with my long brush, and I'm going to cut my canvas right in half. So I'm going to dip on into the yellow. I'm using my long brush for nice control, and I'm going to find about halfway down my canvas. And what I'm going to do is make a mark. Now I can decide to just kind of eyeball it on this side, or I can go ahead and measure with my brush, whatever feels good to you. And then using our edge, the bottom of our brush, I'm going to stand that right on up, and I'm going to slide it right across. Now, if you remember and you're good, you can paint the sides, because I always forget, but you can just wrap that right around. Also, we can kind of play with the amount of color in our sky, and just have fun putting that paint on. So I'm going to put down my long brush. That was just kind of get to my mark, and I'm going to start by focusing on from my horizon line, working my way up. I'm going to start with yellow, and then I'm going to introduce some of that orange in there. And if you are joining now, don't feel like, I know this isn't the time I said. I just wanted to get this in because I have another event booked, a private event booked for later. So I wanted to make sure that you guys had your painting for tonight. Of course, you can rewatch this. I'll repost it. And you can always pause, and that kind of helps when I'm going too fast. So I hope you're enjoying this beautiful day. So I'm just getting my yellow in. Of course, I can really play with the amount of yellow or any other color in this painting. But I think that looks great for my yellow. Now I'm going to focus on adding a little bit of orange. So I'm not going to do anything to my brush other than add just a little bit of orange. And I'm going to blend from the top down to my next bottom color, which is my yellow. So I'm going to start over here, and I'm above my yellow, and I'm just going to go across. So I'm in my dry canvas, and I'm going all the way across. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bringing that orange right on down into the top of my yellow, just letting it blend away. So by going all the way across my canvas first, I get all the extra paint off, and then I can go down and blend. So I will keep some of that beautiful bright yellow, but also have a nice seamless blend where it isn't just an abrupt stop from one color to the other. Of course, if I don't have enough paint on there, I always can add my yellow back or add some orange, and I always start above and bring down. So, I'll just pull this up. Again, I'm just recording this a little early today. I'm sorry about that. But of course, what's great about it is that you can pause it whenever you like. And when I'm painting, I don't always finish a painting, like rarely ever do in one sitting. So feel free to pause and rewatch and jump in at different times. Just gonna pull this up. All right, so my next color I'm gonna introduce is going to be my bright blue. And I am going to go back a little bit later and add my my black into that. So this is, I can get a little bit more loose when I'm creating this part here. So I have my orange and yellow that's bright and beautiful. I love that. Now I'm going to go ahead and get darker in my sky. So I'm going to load my brush up with my bright blue, and I'm going to start way above, just about a ½ inch or so above my orange. And if you had a lot of paint on there, of course you can give your brush a nice white wash wipe before going into your blue if you didn't want any of that orange to mix in. Now I'm going to go just right down to my orange. I am going to kind of stop right at that line. Usually we do blend, or I love that blend, but for now I'm just going to kind of get it down right to that line, because I am going to go and add some interest of this here. Maybe there's some silhouettes of some thin clouds, or just some beautiful color of our sunset. Our sun has just gone below, and our and just a little bit of on the horizon is that glow. All right, so I think that looks great. Adding my blue, I'm just gonna let that be for a moment, and I am going to go focus up into my next color, which is going to be my purple. Now I have that blue on my brush already, and I'm not going to do anything to it other than just dip right on into my blue or purple, and I'm going to do the same thing that we've done all along, adding that top and then bringing it down into it. So here we go. I'm going to start with that purple. Now this is where you can kind of play with the amount of purple that you want in your sky, but I'm bringing it all the way across, and I'm going to rub it into the top of that blue, letting it blend. So here's that blend. Nice. So I blended right on down into that blue, creating a nice seamless transition. And I'm going to bring it up just a little bit higher. Woo. And you can kind of play with your brush stroke. If you don't want to see stops in on your canvas of like your brush stroke, just elongate them, less pressure, dust away any of those little marks. All right, very good. Next color combination I'm going to do is my blue, back to my blue. So I'm going to keep my brush, just dip it on into that bright blue, and I'm going to start right above again. So I went yellow, orange, bright blue, purple, bright blue again. Going right across that top above that purple. Now once I went all the way across, getting all the extra paint down, I'm going to bring that down. And I'm just letting it blend right on in. All right, great. So let's darken that up a little bit more. Let's start introducing some of our black. So I'm going to keep my brush as is. Now I'm dipping on into the black paint. So I have my blue and my black on there now. I'm going to start, you get it, you guessed it right, above, across, back and forth. If you're painting those sides, bring it on over. And I'm going to go down. Really allowing it, and I can introduce blue when I'm going down. And I can start really kind of playing with my brush strokes. So let me just bring you a little bit closer. So I'm going to start leaving spaces between my strokes, and I'm being very aware of how I'm using my brush. Am I using that edge or am I using the whole width? I can load it up again. I am going to go to the top again, and now I can bring that down. And if you notice, by using that edge of my brush, I can have a really nice controlled mark and adding some beautiful, interesting variations and markings in our sky. Maybe some silhouettes of some very thin clouds. And I'm just brushing it away. And I always can add what color's behind it. So if I'm like, oh man, I think I got a little too dark, I just threw some purple on there and I'm just going to go right over it, softening that mark. I'm going to continue down, starting again at the top, just getting a little bit of that extra paint off. Now I'm going to be using the edge of my brush, and where that blue and orange are, see, I'm brushing into my canvas. I'm going to add a little bit of blue just to kind of lighten and help move my paint. And I have a very light hand, holding my brush a little further back. Now, of course, when you're painting, I highly suggest not having your canvas flat. So if you have anything to kind of prop it up, or if you can stand while it is propped up, is even better. It really does help when you can kind of step away from your work. All right, so I'm going to give a few more little brush strokes that are a little further apart here and there. And I also know that I can go back and add maybe some yellow on top. Maybe I'll introduce a little bit more purple and a little bit of black here. Kind of breaking up that sky. Every once in a while, put your brush down, step back. See what's happening, see what you want to add. I'm going to continue up all the way to the top of my canvas. I am going to continue with that black and blue combination just to add a little bit more depth. If I kept it pure black, that would be totally fine, but I find that by adding a little bit of that blue, or adding blue to it, really helps with adding a little bit more depth into that sky. And I'm always looking for a little bit more, and so this is one way to go about it. You could even add purple in there. If you're doing the sides, bring it right on over. And maybe start thinking about, do you want it to be a waxing or a waning crescent? Or do you want a full moon? I kind of like how it's kind of unusual to see this big crescent moon, but I think it's beautiful. All right, I'm happy with that. I may go in and lighten up a little bit down here a little later, but for now, I think that looks beautiful. I'm going to start focusing on my water. And what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to grab my big brush and I'm going to fill the whole bottom part in with blue and black. So let me just push you back for a second so I can grab my supplies. So I'm going to switch on over to my big brush, and I'm going to be using black, and I'm also going to be using the bright blue to fill in that whole bottom section. You could do, again, pure black if you like, but I like that little bit of depth and interest by adding the blue and the black. So let's see. All right. So I have my big brush, and now I'm going to focus down here. And I'm going to dip on into my black and my blue. So I have black and blue on my brush. I'm going to take my time going back and forth. And taking my time at my horizon line, I'm going to put my land back there. But I still want to have a nice edge. If you want, you can get your land line in, which I'm just going to do a slight curve for my bottom of my land if you wanted to save that, or you could paint it all the way down. We are going to get dark anyway down there. So I'm just going back and forth. I'm using the whole width of my brush. I also can turn and use that edge of my brush. You're going to notice if you have multiple colors on your brush, the more you go back and forth, you're going to kind of create or mix them together, creating a solid. If you have multiple colors in your brush and you go back and forth lightly, you're going to see more of a variation and keep, both colors visible. So play with it, because we are going to add a lot of color into this sky or water anyway. It's always just kind of fun to see what our materials do. So I'm going to grab my long brush, and I'm just going to clean up my horizon line just to have a little bit more control. Maybe I'll use my white grip, because I like my white grip. All right, here we go. So I'm just going to clean up, again using that blue and using that black. That feels good. So while I wait for my water to dry, I'm going to focus down on my sand. And my sand combination is going to be black, yellow, and maybe a little bit of orange. But I'm going to start with my lighter colors, the yellow and orange, first on my brush, then add my black. So I'm going to just give my brush a quick little wipe. And I'm going to dip on into my yellow. So I have my yellow right on there. And I'm just going to focus down here for a moment. I also am going to dip in some orange. And I'm just going to quickly get that down, because I am going to introduce that black on top. It is nighttime, so I do want my sand to be nice and dark. And I'm not worried about, I'm just kind of blending right now, because the water will go on top of my sand later, so I always can go back and clean up my water's edge. So I'm adding orange, I'm adding yellow, and I'm adding that black. I can even grab that black from my water and just kind of blend it down. We just want our sand to be nice and dark. And I think that feels really good. All right. While I'm waiting for my water to dry, I'm going to go up to my sky. So of course at any time, if you're watching this later, you can pause and spend a little bit more time on a particular spot and then go back and push play. So I'm going to focus on my little way out there. You could do, just a little bit of land coming in and then stop. My land goes all the way across. Maybe this is looking out from like where I live. I can see, if I go down to the beach, I see like all of Long Beach, right? If you're in Plymouth, and maybe this is like the Long Beach over here, and those houses are on there. Maybe it's somewhere completely different. So you can really play with your land line. I'm going to use my long brush and I'm going to dip on into that black. Now I want to keep a lot of my yellow in my sky, right? So I don't want my land to be very big. So I'm going to just slow it down, and I also want a nice, interesting edge there. So I'm slowing it down. I don't want the same bumps going across. So stop and kind of look. And I'm just cleaning up that bottom edge if there's any space to fill in. Here's the time to do that. Alright, cool. Alright, so we're going to start introducing our color into our water. I am going to really kind of play with my mark. I may use my long brush, and I'm also going to be using my my white grip brush. So they're both flat brushes. I just really like using that edge. And I am going to be using lots of colors and having the opportunity to go back and forth and add other layers. So patience, patience, patience when we are painting to create our layers, and of course to dry. If you have a blow dryer, that always helps too. Alright, so I'm just going to keep in mind that my moon is going to be like in the center of my my canvas, right? So that's where it's kind of like lighting up my water. So I'm going to focus there first, and then I will brush out on the sides. First color I'm going to be using is going to be my Ocean Breeze. I'm using Craft Smart acrylic paint today. And I'm going to start by creating these flat brush strokes. So my land, or my sky, then I have a little bit of land, and now I have my water's edge back here. My goal is to have a nice jagged edge. So just kind of let it sweep. And I find that if I keep my brush stroke flat, that's kind of the look I'm going for. Let's see. There you go. But just kind of play with it. And again, what's great about this is I always can kind of add some black on top of it. Or of course, I have so many colors that I'm going to be adding that I'm just kind of relaxing, maybe holding your brush a little further back, and just sweeping it across. If your background or your water is super wet and you're not getting any color sitting on top, just let it dry a little bit longer. Again, you can just pause and let it dry and then come back. So I'm just bringing out, so I'm brushing from kind of the inside, brushing out, allowing a jagged mark. I'm going to just give my brush a quick little wipe. And I'm going to go ahead into my bright blue, maybe keeping a little bit more space between each stroke here. And I'm going to focus on my background, or my sides. And I'm just kind of letting it go here and there, brushing into my Ocean Breeze, my first color I added on there. I'm keeping my brush flat like that. And again, I always can go back and add that blue-black combo that we originally did. I'm just brushing, kind of letting the edges of that Ocean Breeze kind of blend into that beautiful bright blue. I'm going to go back and add another layer of my Ocean Breeze a little later. I'm just starting to really build it up. So, of course, always can add different layers or go back and add another layer of a color to bring it out. I'm going to go ahead and dip on into my purple, and I'm just again focusing on that outer edge. I'm keeping it flat, I'm brushing in, and you can brush out. I'm using that edge, I'm holding my brush a little further back, thinking about the edge of my water now, kind of following that edge. And if you're getting just really dark marks that aren't blending at all, again, you can go back in with your black. So let me just kind of show if that were to happen. Like, I have this big purple spot right here, and I'm like, ah, I don't want that. Well, all you have to do is add a little bit of black and just break it up. Or, of course, we always can take our paper towel or our rag, just make sure it's clean, and just wipe it out, let it dry, and then paint right on top. Cool. So I'm going to focus, while I let that kind of dry for a moment, I'm going to focus on my water's edge and just kind of think about my sand coming on to my water, right? So I'm going to add a little bit of blue. I'm going to be playing with some blue, some black, and also adding my little bit of foam down there. But I'm just going to go ahead, and with that blue, I'm overlapping on my sand, and I'm just very roughly adding my water. There can be some little pockets of that black or background poking through, because I always can go back as well and add some black to soften that. Nice. All right, now my water is on top of my sand. Perfect. I'm going to let that dry before I add my foam on that edge. And let's see. Now we just need to let that dry for just a few more minutes so I can get my moon down. I am going to see if I can do this. Let's check it out. Oh yeah, perfect. So I have my plate. This is just a paper plate, maybe a dinner plate, whatever you have. And this is going to help me get my half moon shape. So what I'm going to do actually is take my paper towel, and I want to know how far I want my outline to go. So I'm going to just kind of draw on my plate. And I can just kind of stop here, and this is very rough because we'll paint this on, of course, but I just want to see how I want, or you could do it this way if it's easier for you to kind of see. Just kind of getting that. If you have a piece of paper, I would suggest practicing, so putting your plate down and tracing this and seeing what you get from it. Maybe I'll show you that. Okay, so here is just making our, let's see. All right, just testing just to make sure I have enough of a curve for my moon. I'm going to start, looks like here. And with my paper plate, I'll kind of get bumps, but I'll just clean that up. So let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think that looks great. If I wanted, maybe I could shorten it just a little bit, and then I would go ahead and add my center line and kind of just clean up how that is. So that's going to be my moon, and I'm happy with that, and that looks great. So the plate is very helpful, or you can, of course, just freehand that on there. So I think I'm almost dry, and so I'm going to use my paintbrush, and I'm just going to be using my long brush, my flat small brush, and I'm going to be using a little bit of white paint. If you use a pencil, sometimes you're going to be able to see the lead through your light colors from your moon. So either do it super light with a pencil and maybe even erase it a little bit, or use your paint. So I'm going to be using my long brush. I'm going to be using a little bit of white, and we'll get started. You, of course, could be using a detail brush if you like to use your detail brush. Maybe I'll do like a light yellow combo. All right, here we go. Let's try this out. So I am deciding if I want a waxing or a waning moon, And I'm going to also, if you wanted to, you could fold your plate in half and just crease it, because that will be where you can put it right on your horizon line. Kind of eyeball it on my side, so my fingers are here. There it is. Now it's perfect. Maybe move it over, kind of figure out where you want the placement. All right, that feels good. Now I'm just going to go ahead. Now this line is going to be a little just kind of rough. I will clean it up, but it's really just going to help with my placement. So there's my outside of my moon. Thank goodness for our plate. And now I'm going to start kind of carving out that inside of my moon, and I'm going to use that edge of my brush, wiping on both flat sides, compress those bristles. And maybe I'll start here. Let's see. I don't know. Yeah. So just kind of starting, filling in my moon. Use your finger first. Maybe I'll drop this down just a bit. Bringing it down. And I'm really going to carve all this out, so I'm not even too worried about that. All right, perfect. I love it. All right, so let's start. I'm all dry up here, so now I'm just gonna start priming my spot, because I have such dark colors back there that I want my moon to really pop. So I'm going to be using white first to prime my moon, and then I'll go in and add, once it dries, I'll go back and add my yellow. Just being aware of your edge. Cleaning up my mark. All right, now down in here, I could do it all solid, but I'm not going to. I'm going to continue to just work in this back and forth flat brush stroke, because it is all broken up down here, right in my water, and I'm going to play with that nice jagged edge. So maybe brush out from, and allowing there to be any mixing, because we'll go back and add all of our final colors on top of that. Now, when you are filling in your moon, sometimes you get carried away and you curve your brush stroke, and then you would have brush strokes going like this. Keep them flat. Keep them flat. I'm just brushing it out. You're not going to have that tight moon shape here. It's going to be a little diffused. But that's beautiful. And I'm also going to paint over my land here. I'm not worrying about it, but I'll just cover that up with black a little later. All right, awesome. Letting that all dry for a moment. Maybe while we're waiting for that to dry, I can focus on my water's edge. Now, this whole painting, we've really talked about using that edge of your brush and really having, really being aware of your mark, right? Same with our water's edge. So many ways to make our foam, but my mark here is flat. It's very, very flat. Let's try it out on our paper plate. Let me just use black to kind of show you my mark. Excuse me. And my mark for my water's edge, I'm just going back and forth and kind of moving it. So almost like a zigzag. Like if I were to do it really big, it would be kind of like a Z, but it's just slight zigzags. and also it's on the edge of my brush. So right on that edge, the tip of my brush. I'm not using the whole side, the edge. All right, so I'm just gonna give my brush a quick little wipe off, and then we'll go down to our water's edge. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of that foam right on that edge. So if we look over here, just have a little bit there, and of course we can tone it down with maybe some blues or black or whatever color is feeling good. Let's see, so I'm gonna add my white, I'm gonna wipe off on both flat sides, and now I'm gonna focus, again, that flat brush stroke, kind of that little zigzag right on my water's edge, flat, right to left. At least that's how I'm doing mine. You could always tap it if you wanted to. I'm playing with different lengths of my stroke. I'm also allowing it to kind of travel back into my water a little bit. When you're at the beach, if you notice, the foam comes on and then it sometimes just kind of almost looks like lace going back out. So just kind of softened that. All right, I'm super psyched. I love how it's looking. Now I'm going to continue building around my water and filling in my moon. So I'm going to give my brush a nice wash wipe again if it has any of that black in there, because I want a nice clean brush. All right, so let's go ahead and focus on our moon's reflection again. If it is super wet, pause and either get a blow dryer or just hang out and let it dry, work on something else. But I'm gonna go ahead and add my next color. So I have my white here, I love it, but I'm gonna add some of that yellow glow. Remember, I am gonna put back my land on top, and I'm using the edge of my brush and I'm leaving spaces between. Just like we did in our water, I'm gonna do the same kind of brush stroke, maybe a little bit of like a zigzaggy, jagged edge. I can mix it with some white if it's like, oh, if I'm like, it's too intense, but I think I'll be okay because I am gonna make all of this a little bit more intense in just a little bit. So slow build up. Always can go back and add and change, keeping my brush stroke nice and flat. I'm kind of going with the white, yellow on my brush. Nice and jagged, flat, spaces in between because I can build it up. All right, I'm happy with that. I'm gonna add a little bit more white on there and just kind of blend out just a little bit. Like I said, I am gonna go in and brighten up all the colors around it. So now this is so intense, my back other colors are kind of like a little flat. So that's why we're gonna go back in with our, I'm gonna go in with Ocean Breeze. Same thing, think about those kind of nooks and crannies that we're gonna allow do this, right? So using my edge, wiping my brush off on the sides, and just going in and pulling. Maybe I'll pull, I'm gonna push and pull. So I'm gonna push in and I'll pull out, building up again, just like we did. Getting in any of those little nooks and crannies. Now this color is really standing out. I'm going to build all the way out again, so my next color is going to be my bright blue. So if you're getting some harsh edges on the side here, don't worry about that because we're going to go back in. All about just being patient and layering, problem solving, all those good things. Brushing in, brushing out. I have a tickle. Excuse me. I just ordered some new brushes, and I'm really excited. They may be our new brushes for Kreativ, a new brand. So I will keep you posted. Let you know if I like them more than the ones that we already have. All right. So now that kind of looks like it's like popping out because I need to continue on those sides. I need a drink of water. All right, next color, that bright blue. And of course, I always can tone any of this down with that black. Again, one more time, really allow it to do this, right? Keeping it flat. Holding my brush a little further back, loosening up. Just enjoying putting that paint on there. It's interesting. Have you ever looked up what the moon was the day you were born? You can just Google it. It's really easy. And it's kind of interesting. Mine was a full moon. I think it explains quite a bit. So yeah, I'm definitely going to go in here and add a little bit of black. I'm really bright. I really love that, but I'm going to step back first, and then I'm going to see where I feel needs to be knocked down. I think this right here, maybe I'll bring a little bit of my white out. I'm going to get that landed now because it's throwing me off. So here we go. Clean that up. So if you think you know someone who would love to paint this, a moon lover, or just someone who loves to paint, please share. And also, start thinking about, is there anything else you want to add? And when you're done, I would absolutely love to see your finished piece, or if you have any questions, you can always send me a picture of your work with a question, and I'd be happy to either do a little video with you or just do a little drawing on your painting and then send it over to you, and we can work that way. Also, I just love seeing your work, so in a private message, or if you're feel comfortable, please just comment right here in the comments below. So here I'm just going in with a little bit of black on my brush and just brushing in. Slow down if you need to, step back, see what's going on. I think I like that. Do the same thing over here. You could totally do that black-blue combination or just use your pure black. Again, whatever feels good. Let's see. Bigger brush strokes down here. A little bit more controlled in here. Nice. All right, I'm gonna clean my brush and I'm gonna go right up to the top here and I'm gonna add that yellow glow into my moon. If you have glitter, it would be really pretty to see glitter in the water. So if you have like a clear glitter paint, like that crystal is a beautiful one. I'm gonna use white, I'm gonna use yellow, and I'm just gonna focus on my moon. And I just cleaned up, I'm going to clean up any of those edges. Be aware of, if you just painted your land, you don't want to be pulling that, that black into your moon. So just be aware, maybe let it dry for a moment, blow dry it real quick. Again, always having the option to just pause the video. Send me a message if you have a question. How bright or how light do you want your moon? Taking my time, really being aware of my brush angle, and if I'm using my edge or the whole width. Clean it up. got black in my brush. So let me just clean that off. All right. So I have my white, my yellow. If there's any black paint that is wet, just be aware of it because you don't want to smudge. Taking my time. Cool. All right, next step. Let's go ahead up into our sky. I'm going to be using the back of my brush and I'm going to tap on into my white paint and I'm going to tap, tap, tap until I run out of paint. This is going to create a bigger mark and then slowly get smaller as I tap, creating depth into my sky. So I'm just going to tap and move along. I'm going to focus in my darkest part of my sky. I'm not going to go down into my yellow or orange. And maybe my bigger ones are up top and they get smaller as they go down. Just kind of think about it. I'm just tapping, staggering my tap, maybe picking up a little bit from another one. Taking your time. Maybe you could use a toothbrush and pull back on it. Just be aware if you're going to be doing that. Sometimes you can get some crazy big marks or blobs on your painting. It could be cool. You can make it work for sure. Maybe make it into a shooting star. But just be aware. It also is just kind of fun. Maybe go outside to do that, just so you don't get the spray all over. I'm just going to focus, maybe a little galaxy up here. Just tapping. And at this time, I kind of step back and just see what I need. But I really like it. I think it came out great, and I hope you had fun. Again, I know I'm early, I'm sorry. You can always just rewatch this at any time and share with your friends. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to message me with a picture or just a question. I'd be more than happy to help. If you have any ideas of what you would like to paint, or if you have any things you want to learn about painting, please let me know. But thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. All right, bye my friends, bye.